From Social Prosperity Partners, this is Community Catalysts. Welcome to Community Catalysts, the podcast that explores the qualities of community leadership and the many paths and forms it can take. I'm your host, Matt Lehrman, and whether you're joining us for the first time or returning, welcome. I am so glad you're here. Our mission is to share experiences and insights, good, bad, and ugly, that help local leaders find ways to build trust, foster collaboration, and enhance effective governance. Be sure to follow or subscribe so you never miss an episode. Today we're visiting Fountain Hills, Arizona, a town on the outskirts of the Phoenix metro area. What began as a small master-planned community has grown to about 24,000 people, and it's known for its rolling terrain, incredible desert views, a twice-yearly arts festival that's a personal favorite, and its iconic fountain, one of the world's tallest. Yet in recent years, all that stunning scenery has been overshadowed by the increasing ugliness of its local politics. To say my guest has had a front row seat is an understatement. She hasn't just observed, she's been in the splash zone, hit by waves of anger and incivility firsthand. And I'm grateful to her for being willing to open up and be with us today. I'm joined by Ginny Dickey, the former mayor of Fountain Hills. She was first elected to the town council in 2006, served 8 years until 2014. She was then elected mayor in 2018 and served 3 consecutive 2-year terms before losing her reelection bid last November. Mayor Ginny Dickey, welcome to Community Catalysts.
Thank you, Matt. I appreciate you giving me the chance to speak with you today and welcome your question.
So, Mayor, I always call a mayor, once the mayor, always the mayor. So I'm always going to call you Mayor. But if you don't mind, the first question I want to ask you, I want to call you Ginny, because you and I have now known each other for a couple of years. Ginny, before we get into the politics, and there's a lot to unpack, I want to just start with something personal. After so many years of public service, what's the mix of emotions that you're feeling right now, having just stepped away from so much public service in your community? How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I think that we're nationally going through big changes, and obviously locally it's mirroring that a bit in more ways than it has in the past, I believe. But personally, I'm doing fine, health wise and all that.
Any regret? Any anger?
I'm reading a lot about how anger is a sort of an emotion. You shouldn't go there, and it's not really a big one on my part in my life ever. But I think I don't regret, but I do think there were ways I might have been able to win, but those weren't my ways of running ever, or the way I run my life.
You've called Fountain Hills your home since what, 1983? Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
That was even before it was a town officially. So looking back, just real quick, what drew you to the place and what got you so invested in community leadership so quickly?
My parents moved here. We're New York family, and my dad was a doctor and my mom, the violin player. And we lived in the Hudson Valley, and I had gone to school in Massachusetts and such, and was living in Vermont and New Hampshire. And in the late 70s, they came out on a vacation, and we're like, whoa, we're done with snow. So, and he was a doctor, so he did that. He came over here. He started the orthopedic residency at the VA hospital, and then he did his own practice. And then my brother joined him. The pull, honestly, was them. We'd be visiting for a couple of years. I had one little kid at the time, and New Hampshire to here. And after a while, and my husband at the time was a broker or financial consultant. So he also was more flexible on where we could go. So we just decided, hey, we're going to move here. And we did.
Your personal background, your story is really interesting. Your career experience includes math and banking and bookkeeping and teaching and public policy, even theater. And I just have to ask, how have those different skills shaped your approach to leadership? And do you think your experiences in the arts in particular gave you any particular insights or skills that have been useful in your public service?
That's a great question. I'll hit the math first. So I believe that that helps you think. I mean, I didn't actually have a career in math except for the bookkeeping and such. I did work at a bank for several years in New Hampshire, but it's a logical way. It's a way of thinking that makes you a little impatient, I think, with alternate facts, that favorite phrase. The art part is really interesting. So my mom, like I said, is violin. My dad, my brother, my sisters, we all do different things. They paint or they sculpt or they sing. so even when I was in New Hampshire and my oldest, I was holding him in my arms being in a rehearsal for musical theater there. I love to sing and it's fun. And so I started out just kind of dabbling in that. Then we moved to Arizona and Mesa Musical Theater. And my sister Val, who lives here, she started a branch of a community theater here in Fountain Hills in '87 or so, and it's still going strong. And so that was wonderful. And I think that whole audition experience does help you because it's very nerve-wracking. Not only just to sing and in front of people that are judging you, literally, but learning lines. And
you're saying it gave you the confidence to be able to stand up in front of people and not just not be nervous about public speaking, which is a minor thing, but also because in theater you're always aware of other performers. That also made you, I imagine, very aware of the audience that you were speaking to. So you were responding to people's emotions, not just their questions, but responding in the moment to the people you were talking to in a position of civic leadership.
Oh, absolutely. And, you've probably been to shows where the audience was just flat. My family, we'd go to like almost every production. So we'd be like, oh man, that was really, really good. So then you'd know, well, that audience just was in a bad mood or who knows why, or, it was raining. And how to not take all of these things so internally and, feel good about what you did, if you messed up, if you missed a line or whatever. But the other thing is you care about it. And if we end up talking about some of the stuff about being a leader, you shouldn't be phony. So it's interesting because when you are in a show, you're obviously playing a role. But if you care, if you also set the chairs up and you also brought the soda and your sister is running the thing, you care how good it is and how much people actually really enjoyed it. And that's what gives you satisfaction.
That sounds like the perfect pivot point now to start talking about the more recent experience. And you've spoken about the influence of ideological groups, national ideological groups and partisan politics on local elections. When did it first descend on you that there was this incredible pressure that was coming not just from within your community, but from outside your community?
2022. The election of 2022 was a real change, a game changer. The outside, and one internal PAC, well, two internal PACs then, and then this one just now with this outside PAC and Turning Point USA, the attention and the money and the resources and whatever that they put in to defeating me and my colleague who squeaked in by 7 votes. It was like a mission.
This was a national political action committee that targeted the mayor race in Fountain Hills, Arizona, with 24,000 people.
Well, actually, the one PAC was not national, and it had nothing to do with us. But they attacked, and it was just this young kid in Glendale or something, like not local at all, and he was helping people to defeat some state senators who had won. And with me, I mean, there were signs all over town, yellow and black, dishonestdickey.com. There was nothing there if you put it in the computer. Dishonestdickey.com. Script handwriting. Her policies made me lose my business. Like, huh? they started talking about masks and stuff from 2020, which was a county mandate, which you probably remember. I was one of the few mayors who actually put it on an agenda to ask people if they wanted to. This was before the county mandated them, because I play it straight. And I never felt like, oh, I'm just going to make this decree. But as it's turning out, the careful, conscientious leading did not matter.
Let me make sure I understand this. So lawn signs start showing up around the community saying dishonestdickey.com. And is it not clear who's putting them out or what their agenda? I mean, obviously their agenda is to discredit you, but is it not clear, what the substance is behind it or who the player is behind it?
It was clear because we looked it up. It was called Nico Pack, and it was a young man. If you would ask me, it would be, a national message that any Democrat running, just call them socialists, call them dishonest, say they're wasting taxpayer money. But the internal rot, which is what it was called, Reclaim Our Town, and they don't mind being called rot, their signs and their efforts were over the top. And they did it before, but I managed to, eke that one out against Joe Arpaio. This time, socialists ruin towns. One that I thought, and this is again, if you say it's not a regret, but it's a mistake maybe, they had signs out that Dickey supports potholes. I mean, how ludicrous is that? It's so funny. And I even made, posed for pictures in front of it like, oh, wow, yeah, I support potholes. It was believed or what? It's a very incredible set of circumstances.
It's stunning in a way. I mean, this is not political discourse in terms of arguing about positions or policies taken. This sounds more like an act of intimidation.
Oh, it was. I mean, if I was a normal person that, had laws that applied to her, because when you're elected, you give up everything as far as being harassed and I don't know which is the right word, for sullying your reputation or whatever. I mean, because the implication is that you ran for office, so suck it up. And I do. I mean, I really do. I have a thick skin, but and it did go into the policy, like you're saying, but it was live, like I did this and I didn't spend money on streets when I spent more than anybody ever before me. So you put all that information together and it just either falls on deaf ears or I didn't have it in the right place. Again, we were probably 10-1 with letters to the editor in favor. So many Republicans in town, they made videos for me. It didn't land. Or they
made videos in support of you?
Yeah.
There were people of all political persuasions saying, wait, Ginny Dickey is reasonable. She's got integrity. She's working in the public interest. She's building bridges in our community. She's saying those kinds of things. But somehow this intimidate, what I would call this outrageous incivility, you're saying that actually somehow cut through the noise. And it landed in a way that was unimaginable.
Disrespect, and it sounds so old fashioned, but I'm like 41 years here. My entire family, you walk around Fountain Hills, you see statues and art that my brother and my sister and my dad did, on 9/11, school buildings with my name on it, and yet my opponent said on social media that I was responsible for the downfall of the state of the schools. Like, first of all, I was on in 92, or 94 to 2002. And these schools that are around here have my name on it. I went around and took pictures of the plaques on the schools and posted that. Like, come on, guys, but all very above board. I did not attack. I didn't lie ever.
You took the high road.
I took the high road. And there were several things working against me. I guess I would say not only these PACs and the lies, but there were 1,600 undervotes for mayor. So in a town with probably 19,000 voters, we had a really good turnout. But the people came in, voted, and walked in there, but did not vote for mayor. So that was one thing that was kind of a shocker, and that's about what I lost by. But then you look back and you say, okay, how many people voted for Joe Arpaio in July? 1,500 or so. So maybe none of them wanted to vote for either one of us.
Right. He lost in the primary.
Yeah, when he lost in the primary. So those folks who voted for him, what did they do after that?
Mayor, there's something that I have trouble understanding in the course of this. I understand that if there are two opponents running for mayor and they have policy differences, that the gloves come off and a political campaign it's a brawl, and it might be bare knuckled and it may be ugly, but at least it's obvious to me in that sense that each is trying to win the office for what they think is the betterment of their community. What I don't understand is the PACs that you're referring to coming in, which, if I understand correctly, are not coordinated with a particular political candidate, right? They're operating independently. I don't understand who the people are that are supporting that and what they hope to get out of what I think is poisoning the well. And can you tell me, am I just naive in this, or is there some agenda, something that's going on that we just need to understand that there are people who they get off on it, or there's a legitimate agenda that they're pursuing? How do I make sense of the fact that there are people who care so much about the mayor race and the politics of a 24,000 person little suburb on the outskirts of Phoenix that is beautiful otherwise, that they care enough to make the politics so ugly? I can't get my head around that.
I don't blame you for not appreciating it at all. But first of all, I think our reputation, and I think that this is something that concerns me, could be becoming like, here's a haven for fill in the blank. The Nico PAC one, I think, was just a national thing. Let's find, a national agenda. Let's put it that way. I don't know whether he had connections to anybody for real or not. But if they're like, we are going to knock, their goal is to knock off Democratic, let's just say mayors and council people and school board members. If that's their goal, they don't need anything else, because their accomplishment is that they won. And they will. So take him out of the picture and talk about ROT. ROT,
which stands for
Reclaim Our Town.
Reclaim Our Town. Okay.
The evil 69-year-old grandma. But anyway, I think that they do partly have an agenda. There's two things going on. There's one where they don't have an agenda because they're not working in good faith. There's a couple council people I would put in that category who, they're really not working in good faith to make good things happen. They're not like, oh, I have a better idea to fix a street, or, oh, I have a better idea for that building. They don't care, because the goal is chaos. We're seeing it nationally. The goal is blowing things up. And I got to agree with you. And I think about this when it comes even to like Ukraine. It's like, so you want to be the boss of rubble and people who have left or died. What? And that's how I see it here. Let's take a real example, an apartment development, a $67 million investment in our town at Target Center. So it's not in a neighborhood. It's not bothering anybody. It has a couple of things that needed a permission from the council to do, because it was, commercial, and now it has to be residential. So that comes to the council, barely passes again, just because at the time we had 4 Democrats and 3 Republicans. So the 4 of us vote yes for it. ROT takes out referendum, goes to attack it. We see some of the emails, either by accident or they send them to us by mistake, of why they're against these apartments. Section 8 or whatever, poor people are going to move in there. You know who's going to move in there? People that shop at dollar store. You know who shops at dollar store? Democrats. This is literally in writing on how they get people to sign the petition, because we're ruining the town. even though, like I said, it's a plaza. It's a half empty plaza. And this takes the empty part out and turns it into apartments, which you probably noticed in Scottsdale and in Paradise Valley. That's what's happening to malls everywhere. They're becoming these little communities. And then what comes? The coffee shops, the restaurants, all of that. So they failed miserably with the referendum. They made a big mistake and every single petition was out. But 1,800 people signed it. So those people weren't enamored with me being mayor either. And so that's another feature.
So are you saying that the agenda here from the other perspective is we want Fountain Hills to become an enclave of conservative values? And one of the ways we do that is by, I'll use the word intimidation. I imagine they would use a different word. But we're going to make it uncomfortable for people who are not of our political persuasion to want to be in this community.
Yes.
Now, let me make sure I understand. If there was a group that was saying, we don't want African Americans, we don't want Jews, we don't want Italians, moving into our neighborhood, that would be clearly discriminatory and illegal under the law. Doing it for political purposes, that somehow it survives legal challenge. It works.
And don't imagine that they did not say some of those things, because they did. There were emails that we got that literally said, what's wrong with being a rich white community? So, not from 1,000 people, but enough to know that that's what they're thinking.
Mayor, I hate to be dense on this. I have to ask this question again and from a different angle. A couple of years ago, my wife and I were driving through Fountain Hills. We were looking for where we might like to live in the valley, looking at houses. And the signs that we saw in front of it was election season, said something, if I recall, and you alluded to it, was something like leftists ruin neighborhoods or liberals ruin neighborhoods or something like that. And I just marveled at the moment how un-American that felt, to be pressuring people not just to advance one's political cause, but to say that other people are unwelcome, like to deny their humanity. And it occurs to me, liberals buy real estate. They keep property values high. They spend money in grocery stores and create sales tax revenue, which is essential for economic development especially important in a community like Fountain Hills. It is, people of all political persuasions who come to arts festivals and who spend money at local restaurants and, who enjoy the benefits and even at the high end, people who will buy second homes in Fountain Hills and want to spend their winters there. I'm having trouble still understanding what's the long-term play. What's the strategy that makes sense, that says we want to be an enclave of conservatism, and not just general conservatism, but our brand of conservatism. And we are willing to tell everyone else they are not welcome and make it difficult for them in order for us to have this purity that's there. I still don't quite understand that.
No, it's not a logical goal, but it is a goal for someone who just wants power and just wants to be comfortable with what they want surrounding them. So let's take the sales tax thing and all that. They don't care about that. They don't care about revenue and supporting the town. They privatize everything if they could. One of the biggest lies about me was that got a bad deal for MCSO. We're one of the safest. We were basically the safest zip code in the valley for a long time.
MCSO is the sheriff's office, Maricopa County Sheriff's Office.
Yeah.
You contracted with them?
Contracted with them. And that was one of the biggest lies. I mean, if you look at a per capita cost of a police department versus what we spend, and if you look at the reality that they don't need us at all. I mean, they put posters up of me and Penzone with hearts around. Like, what are you doing here? I mean, it was just assault. It was been an assault.
He was like the sheriff who followed Joe Arpaio in office. But let me ask you, you mentioned, they want the power. Let's talk about, better than anyone, what is the power? It's the power of what?
The power to stop 5G telecommunications in town. The power to outlaw basically homelessness. The power to repeal sign ordinances. And the power to stop group homes. And all of these things are illegal, and yet they pursue it. And our attorney says you can't do it, and they do it anyway. So 4-3, 5-2. Yeah, we're gonna do this. We're gonna do that.
Wait. Explain that point. The attorney tells this conservative majority you can't do this,
and they do it. And he is really on the radar, as are other staff members, because of certain things over the years. I mean, a perfect example is this ridiculous. We have a moratorium in Fountain Hills on 5G. It's meaningless, but we have it. And, AT&T and everybody else was got their eye on us. Group homes. Talk to federal government, talk to state government. They dictate and they license them. So, we've done what we can as far as distances and how many people can be in them. We passed a great law at ordinance. We've had no issues, but now they just brought that back up. They illegally repealed our sign ordinance. And then they went into a panic. So what do we do? Well, someone wanted to put a billboard on Shea Boulevard. All of a sudden then it was like, oh, wait, what did we do? Put it back. Sounds familiar over the last couple of days, doesn't it?
Let me ask you this question even one more time. Is there a cohesive strategy that we can get our brains around where someone is saying, Fountain Hills is ideally situated to be the model community of conservative values in America, and we're going to show them what limited government and local control can do without all the bureaucracy and all the stuff that's been accumulated in other places? Is there somewhere there like a strategic plan that says this is what a model conservative community would look like? Is that possibly driving this?
Well, there's a model community in the minds of Turning Point USA or Steve Bannon or whoever these national figures are at this time, where it would be Christian, white, rich, no taxes. So here's the irony. We have this international dark sky discovery center that, I worked really hard with a bunch of other people to get this thing. It's going up now, but we don't support our schools because we don't want young families in here. We don't like public school. So they vote no on bonds and overrides that passed when I was on the school board, which is another reason that what he said about me ruining the school district. We had community support in those days. We passed bonds, we built schools, we had overrides. This last one, a big part of what we were asking for with the school bond, which increases spending for school districts, was security, bulletproof glass, bulletproof walls, gates, escapes, new locks on the doors. They voted no. What do you want to support? What do you want to be in power of? There's probably 10 or 12 or 20 people who are part of this rot, and they want to control the council. And now they do, because people that they got elected refused to say no to them. This 5G thing would have been like, okay, someone come talk to you about it. You listen and you say, okay, we can't do anything about it. FTC, all this other stuff, whatever all the alphabet is. Next. And instead, it's been probably 3 years of discussions and lawyers and executive sessions and so much attention. For what? So we don't have the best wireless communication. I mean, and again, you get back to you want to be the king of a crumbling place. You don't want young families. You don't want progressives. You don't want, different colors. You don't want different religions. But hey, we got this beautiful $1 billion, wonderful Discovery Center, and bring your school buses and come on into Fountain Hills and eat at our restaurants. It's incongruent. You can't do both. And what's heartbreaking for me is all my years of working with everything from, PTA on up, school board, everything else, every committee I'm on, always listening and caring, taking ideas, being fair, all, to a fault almost, being the treasurer of the theater, doing their taxes, being honest to a fault, and to have it after 4 decades. And it's not only about me, and I don't want to make it sound like that, to have it be diminished to dishonestdickey.com is, it doesn't make sense. And the things that you're saying, there's twofold. Yes, there's a strategy. It's a national strategy. They're playing it out. And also, though, there isn't one. There's one of chaos. One of those rot people was against Target in 1998. And he'll still say it's a failure. It's been there for 20 whatever years. It's not a failure. And he was against our ER. Sat at the table with him. You don't want a hospital. You don't want an ER because ambulances beep when they back up. This is what we're dealing with.
I imagine that there are people listening to this conversation who are wondering if this is going to happen in their communities. And as you've shared, you played the conventional role, you took the high road, you did this. What advice do you have for leaders in other communities who may be encountering similar experiences to this going forward? What would you tell them to do based on the experience that you've had?
But I would say, don't discount it. I really thought people were going to see through it. These same folks that defeated me and my colleagues, some of them, in our last election, took the town to court. And I'm not supposed to say they lied in court. I'm not supposed to say they perjured, but I can say the judge didn't believe them. The judge discounted them. They had to pay the town, which they haven't done yet. And they won the day. They won the election. They prevailed. So the message is, I guess, to take it all seriously, to respond. You don't have to personally. I mean, I had a ton of people helping me, and they wrote letters. They did all of those great things. I never had so much help in my life. And smart, intelligent, caring people. Pay attention. Go to those media outlets that you don't want to do. Start one of your own, but don't make it an echo chamber. We have Fountain Hills Connections. We have Fountain Hills this and that and the other thing, all these different pages. Get on there. You read something where they say, do you know she's spent less on roads than ever? Have somebody there to say, no, look at the budget. She put all the COVID money into streets, millions of dollars. But it's exhausting. It's a lot of work, but you got to do it.
You're saying you better have a posse behind you, right? And that posse better be prepared to help address all the blowback, right? All the misinformation or malinformation or whatever is going to be out there, because it's more than you can do on your own. That's what I'm hearing from you, is that if there is a movement of people who are behaving with outrageous incivility, you better be prepared with overwhelming preparation to get your message out. You can't just expect that the reasonable position is going to rule the day.
And come to the meetings.
Mayor, I'm enough of a idealist that I can't end our conversation with a negative thought. So
not at all.
I have one last question I want to ask you. You've served as mayor for 6 years. You were on council for 8. Can you share one moment that lives in your memory where you just emerged feeling, this is exactly why I do the work of local leadership?
There are a lot. One of the earliest ones had to do with a letter to the editor that I took notice of and spoke to a woman, and she couldn't believe she was heard. And that was one thing, but that was early. Superficially, lighting the fountain up, fixing that fountain up. We've lit it for different occasions, and the heartfelt thanks. We had one, and it was a cancer. One of the cancers, we put the pink of the purple for all the different causes, and this one, the people that were affected were just so gracious and so thankful. Lighting the menorah, doing things after October 7th. So there are so many, and they continue. I mean, we did a thing just the other day. We were at the Dark Sky Discovery Center. We're signing the beams because they're building it, right? And just people that were there who just hugged me and thanked me. And it is always worthwhile.
I would just reflect back that the examples that you all gave are examples of creating a sense of belonging, a sense of ownership, a sense of making people feel connected to Fountain Hills as their home community. Those are the things that sounds like you're saying. That's what gave you the greatest gratification in your public service.
It's true. And these are their lives. This is their hometown. These are their memories, their home movies. We don't do those anymore. But how can we not provide the best community possible for everyone, make sure they all feel represented, and so that when their kids go to the high school and they go off to wherever it is they do, like mine did, that they remember Fountain Hills as their hometown and they want to come back.
Mayor Ginny Dickey, thank you for your service, and thank you for sharing your story and your insights. It's been a really interesting and meaningful conversation. I'm really grateful to you for being able to open up about it with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt, for the opportunity. And I appreciate what you do for cities and school boards and organizations throughout the country. It's so helpful. And when you leave, you're leaving them in a better place.
Again, thank you to my guest, Ginny Dickey, the former mayor of Fountain Hills, Arizona. If you enjoyed this episode, please rate and review it on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. Your feedback helps others discover the show, and don't forget to follow or subscribe so you never miss an episode. This episode was edited by Nick Living the Dream Tantillo. Our executive producer is John Little. I'm Matt Lehrman of Social Prosperity Partners. If you have a question or comment about today's topic, I'd love to hear from you. Reach me at 602-688-2724 or Matt, M-A-T-T, at socialprosperity.us. Do you have a story of lessons learned on your journey to leadership? Click the podcast guest link in the program notes. I'm always looking for instructive and inspiring voices to feature on the show. Today's conversation with Mayor Ginny Dickey is a powerful testament to the resilience, courage, and conviction that true leadership demands. Leadership isn't just about policies. It's about standing firm under pressure, upholding integrity, and using local government to bring people together to solve real challenges. Let her story inspire you to lead with unwavering dedication to the betterment of your own community. Thanks for listening. We'll be back soon with another Community Catalyst.